What is up, Ravens flock? Huge shout out for your support for the 410 Sports Talk. James and Glenn are the best in the business. They're killing it right now. They love talking Raven talk. Make sure you go subscribe to their channel. Let's go Ravens. Big trust.
What is up, guys? Welcome to another episode of 410 Sports Talk. I'm James Haskell, along with my co-host Glenn Martin, and we are here today to talk about the breaking news with the Baltimore Ravens. But before we talk about it, I got a couple things to say. One, if you're watching the show, you're not subscribed, subscribe to the show. It would help us out a lot. Number two, check us out on Instagram. We've been up for a little bit, so make sure you go check us out. And anywhere else you listen to social, you follow us on social media. Number three, we're on the pod. Anywhere you listen to your podcast, go check us out. Glenn and I are always giving you guys the good stuff here, so go ahead and help us out by doing a simple subscribe. But Glenn, there was some news today. The Ravens were active. We were wondering if Eric DeCosta was going to make any more moves. So what is the news?
Yeah, so the Baltimore Ravens trade this year's fifth-round draft pick, cornerback Shaun Wade, to the New England Patriots for a 2022 seventh-round pick and a 2023 fifth-round pick. So quite the interesting move, and about a guy that's gotten a lot of different takes this training camp. When me and Jimmy went out to training camp, we asked about a bunch of guys, and we asked the guys who've been there for every camp. So the members of the media, both national and local, we asked them all about their opinions on a bunch of guys. But Shaun Wade was, of course, one of those guys, and every single one of them pretty much dogged Shaun Wade out. They said they don't know how he makes the team. He's been a disappointment. Hasn't lived up to the hype that was when he was first coming out, saying that he could have been even a first-round pick had he come out the year prior, but obviously dropped because of a lack of production in 2020. So, but then we see him in the games, Jimbo, and he makes the game-sealing interception to close out the first preseason game and plays pretty well. So, what are your thoughts on the trade when you first saw the news?
Yeah, when I saw the news, I was like, sounds great. I mean, sounds like a win to me for a couple of reasons. One, because of timing. Timing is important when you're talking about the context of this trade, because we have a log jam at cornerback, and that's not something that goes unnoticed by the other teams. Right. They know what's going on in our locker room, and we are lucky to have that log jam. Right. But at the end of the day, it exists. So instead of getting nothing or sending him to the practice squad, the Ravens got 2 picks from that. So to me, I was okay with it. Number two, I was over it. I was over Shaun Wade when he got absolutely sunned. We talked about this. We've talked about this multiple times. But I mean, by Jalen Moore. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who is not going to make the team. Doesn't really have he had a puncher's chance of making the team, but it's not happening. And he looked like high school, middle school. I mean, it was embarrassing. Everyone has their embarrassing moments. I get that, but that was really bad. And then the third thing that sealed the deal for me, just like you said, when every single media member answered unanimously and was vehement that they don't understand how this guy can make the team, going from a guy that was going to sound like the Ravens were ready to cut and try and get on the practice squad, to getting a 5th and a 7th for him. I'm all right with that. Now, some people I've noticed have said they would have wanted more based on his high ceiling, wanted more in return, like a higher round pick. And I get that, but you have to remember the Ravens had a logjam. They had to do something. Sounds like they weren't very high on him. So for me, like if you take all this into context and you kind of, in my brain, I start to equate these things, and what I get at the end is a net gain for the Ravens, a win because of the context that they're in. This logjam exists. They have all these corners. They have a deep cornerback room. They were going to get nothing and just put him on the practice squad if he got through. And that's always a risk, right? They could have lost him for nothing. And now they guaranteed themselves something. Right? So I'm good with it. Look, I will not miss an ounce. I will not miss a second of sleep because the Ravens do not have Shaun Wade.
Yeah, to me, this was an ultimate positive because here's what it tells me. It tells me a few things. It tells me he wasn't going to make the team anyway, right? They were going to try and cut him and hope they could get him through to waivers. And they obviously put their feelers out there, and it came back that he wasn't going to get through waivers. He was going to get claimed by someone. So the only logical move then was to try and trade him and see if you can get something back. And not only did they recoup the 5th round pick that they used to draft Shaun Wade, but they got a 7th rounder on top of it. So no harm, no foul. They end up actually on the plus side. They basically trade a 5th round pick for a 5th and a 7th. So came out on the positive end there. And here's another reason why I'm happy. If he wasn't going to make the team, well, then who was? I mean, we know about the locks, right? The 5 locks that everyone knows at the cornerback spot are Humphrey, Peters, Jimmy Smith, Tavon Young, and Anthony Averett. Those are locks to make the team. So what this tells me is that Chris Westry is making this team. The 6'4", 199-pound corner who can run and is a perfect outside corner for the Ravens system looks like he's on track to make the team. And also possibly even Nigel Warrior, the 6'1", second-year player out of Tennessee, who made a bunch of plays in that second preseason game, knocked down some balls, made some nice tackles, was
led the team in tackles in that game, didn't he?
Exactly, had 4 solos. So those guys both made plays, and it tells me they feel good about those guys. And it also tells me they feel really good about Brandon Stevens because, you know, the kind of the bill on Shaun Wade was he can play inside and outside, something he did both at school. And we know that the injury history with Tavon Young makes you think that there's going to be a point in time where you're going to need someone to play inside. And while Marlon Humphrey is a star no matter where he plays inside, he's a star, outside, he's a star. I'm sure they would like to keep him outside when they can. And if Tavon were to go out, Marlon would then have to go inside. He just would have to. And so if they're telling me they're trading Shaun Wade, who was the obvious replacement in that situation, then that tells me they feel really good about Brandon Stevens playing nickel. And this is, I'm sorry, were you going to say something?
No, go ahead.
Yeah, so Brandon Stevens is a very versatile player. He's a guy that can play nickel. I think he's going to play some dime linebacker. He's obviously going to play a lot of safety. It's the spot we've seen him a lot at this preseason and training camp. So they must feel good about all their options and their room of corners. They must feel they have a good mix of both young and old, and also a good mix of inside and outside. And then the versatile guys that can do both, like Marlon Humphrey.
Yeah, and there was one guy you left off the list there, and you might have done it for me to hand me a layup here. But I also think this could be a good sign for our Darius Washington. Jeff Zrebeck tweeted out today, if I'm not mistaken, he had 2 pass breakups again today. He's been consistently around the ball in preseason games, at practice. So there's a chance that 2 undrafted guys. All right, you're talking about Westry, and then
now Westry's not a rookie, so I don't know if he qualifies for that undrafted rookie.
So an undrafted rookie, right? Yeah. But certainly our Darius Washington, to make this team. And yeah, I mean, it's going to be really interesting. But like you said, it definitely means that they feel good about the group they got. And they got enough tough decisions to make as it is. Might as well, make the easy ones while you can and get something back for it. And speaking of getting something back, for the Ravens fans out there that are concerned, I just want to remind you guys about Eric DeCosta's track record. So our friend Sarah Ellison tweeted this out to reassure all of us earlier today. So I just want to take a second to digest this here. What Ravens Eric DeCosta gets for his 5th round picks via trade: Calais Campbell, Marcus Peters. That's incredible what Eric DeCosta gives for 5th round picks via trade. Shaun Wade, Curry Vedvik.
I mean, that right there is just unbelievable. And then, I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't flip it again. I mean, you just never know with Eric DeCosta. And just also, let's remind everyone the difference in drafting between these two teams. We all understand the track record of New England. I mean, they had the greatest dynasty in modern NFL history. There's just no denying what they've done. But as far as drafting players, Bill Belichick is hot garbage. And let me tell you why. Bill Belichick has drafted since let's see, he's drafted 52 players over the last 6 drafts, and that doesn't include this past year, none of which have made the Pro Bowl. Not a single one. The last Pro Bowl player that was drafted by the Patriots was Jamie Collins, who was a 2nd-round draft pick in 2013. Just think about that. They haven't drafted they haven't had a homegrown Pro Bowl player since 2013.
What were you doing in 2013? I mean, think about that. Was so long ago.
So long. My son was just born. I mean, actually not born yet as the time of the draft. He was still baking in the old oven there. But so the fact of the matter is, New England Patriots here's the thing. They run a very similar system, similar system. Most similar, I'd say, of all systems to the defensive one that we run here in Baltimore. So they like having man corners. They like having, there's a reason they got Judon from us, right? Because they drop their linebackers in a similar fashion in which the Ravens do. So very similar system. So they probably said, look, if they drafted Shaun Wade and think he can fit their system, then I'm thinking he's probably good enough to fit ours, because we obviously don't understand how to identify and then develop drafted players here in New England. They have to have had this moment of reflection.
Yeah.
So why not go out and reach out and say, hey, I mean, I know you guys are probably gonna have to cut this kid, so how about we give you a pick, and then everyone's happy and we don't have to fight with them over, in the waiver process, because there may be a team ahead of them in the waivers who claims him, and then they don't have a shot at him. So feel good about this trade, guys, because that means that the guys making the team are just better than him. They're a better fit. They're further along. They just make more sense. So while I get that he had some good preseason grades when he came in, I think PFF rated him as the second best rookie man cover corner thus far in the preseason. We have to remember when he was playing, and we have to remember that the Ravens were obviously putting him in situations where he could have success. And then in practice, when all the media members are telling us he's getting dogged, when we saw it with our own two eyes, Michael Darris dogging him, Jalen Moore dogging him, they obviously were trying to see if he could get better at those inefficiencies in his game, and it didn't look like he was in practice. So let's be happy about this, because that means there's a lot of good players in that cornerback room, and there wasn't enough roster spots, so they had to make a move. And what better way to make a move than to get more than you spent to get him? So yeah, I am absolutely thrilled with this trade. I think this is another classic Eric DeCosta. I mean, look, you can say what you want about Bill Belichick as a coach. There's really no arguing his legacy. But as a GM, I don't think he's very good, and I think Eric DeCosta is the very best. So I'm happy with this trade. I think it was a plus, and I think all Ravens fans should feel the same.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% based on the fact sometimes you can know whether we won or lost simply based on your trade partner.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's just anytime you trade with the Raiders, you probably won.
Yep.
Right? Like, anytime you trade with Bill Belichick, you probably won. Right? Like, that's just...
I mean, remember the Mohamed Sanu deal you talked about before the show? What do you give him, a second-round pick for a rental? The guy they didn't even keep? So you give him a second-round pick. We know how important draft picks are, and you get the guy for half a year? I mean, it's silly.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. You know when you're getting away with, figuratively speaking, you're getting away with murder, and you're like high-fiving your buddy. You're like, yeah. You're on the other side of the phone. You put it on mute. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And that's exactly what Eric and the rest of the staff are doing right now. But the other thing I want to mention, I want to address, because I did see some comments about this in the Ravens Flock Twitterverse, is what's going to happen. Because Glenn, I know that you are very concerned about this, much more concerned than I. What happens with when Tavon Young goes down now, right? But I think the answer to me is simple, and you talked about it at the beginning. We have two guys that are above average, and one that is probably a starter in the NFL on another team that can play the outside. That's Anthony Averett, and that's now presumably Chris Westry. We'll slot him in there. So that means that if Tavon goes down and Marlon has to go to the inside, that is a viable option, right? To have, and you look, we're not even including Jimmy in this whole equation, right? Because he's out right now with the ankle, and look, no surgery or anything like that. So first case scenario would be Jimmy on the outside, Marlon inside, Peters on the other side. The best three corners in the NFL. I don't care what you say. I mean, that is the best three, hands down. But we'll say that Tavon goes down 6 weeks in and Jimmy is banged up with a shoulder. You still got incredible backups there with AA and Chris Westry on the outside, and then Marlon's hops over to the inside. So there are three contingencies in place if Tavon goes down. So don't be concerned about that, folks. It wasn't a plug and play scenario with Shaun Wade, like maybe they wanted it to be, just didn't work out that way.
Yeah. And they probably didn't expect to see Chris Westry play the way he did. They probably didn't even expect Nigel Warrior. They may not have expected Brandon Stevens, even though they took him in the third round, to be so good
so early.
Fast.
Right.
I mean, so you mentioned Marlon. So yeah, if Tavon goes down, we lose a potentially Pro Bowl level type slot corner, although he hasn't shown it for a full season yet. And the replacement there is either Marlon Humphrey, who's, by the way, better than him. As good as Tavon is, Marlon Humphrey, you look at the top 100 and listen to receivers talk about him, there is no drop-off if he is inside or outside. None. Talking about an all-pro corner no matter where that guy lines up. But then there also is Brandon Stevens, who can play nickel and who showed that he can play it well. Nigel Warrior can go inside. I mean, they got guys. You mentioned Ardarius Washington. If he makes the team, they got guys that could go inside. So it's not like if Tavon were to go down, Marlon has to now become a full-time nickel. I don't think that's the case. I think they got guys they could cycle in and out and could keep, just keep the defense guessing. You don't know where Marlon's going to be because he could be over your tight end. He could be outside. He could be inside. He could be blitzing. You just don't know. And the good thing is he's an all-pro at every single job you ask him to do. So, yeah, I'm extremely excited. I think that obviously there was no chance they could get him through the practice squad. So they did the best move, what made the most sense for the Ravens.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. We want to get your guys' thoughts in the comments below. Let us know what you think. And like I said at the beginning, like Lamar says in the intro, sub to the channel. It's the best thing and the easiest thing you can do to support the show. And we'll talk to you guys soon.
See you.